So we have learned in previous editions of Kababayan LA that divorces are actually, there's more cases filed during the first quarter of the year. You would think that, you know, holidays, Valentine's Day, more people get engaged, but actually more couples also get divorced. We're talking about that today on the show. Divorce is a very difficult topic to talk about, but certainly very helpful, giving you tips on how to prepare yourself, how to avoid, how to survive a divorce legally and emotionally. Jesus, why is that? Why a lot of cases during the first quarter?
Well, I think you hit it on the head when you mentioned holiday season, family gatherings. It's true that when you marry a person, you marry a family. And conversely, when you're getting divorced, you end up terminating a lot of the relationships from in-laws, mother-in-laws, sister, husband, father-in-laws.
Right.
That you definitely love a lot of these people, but sometimes when you see them over the Thanksgiving table, over the Christmas, and then ultimately the Valentine's season, it can be a 1-2-3 punch on any relationship, even a good one.
So some people just wait it out.
Often.
Yeah. Okay.
My experience supports that, because during the holidays we are so busy. People are really having a hard time, and you would think that the holidays are supposed to be a time of, you know, joy and happiness, but it's a lot of stress as well.
Yes. And so sometimes a lot of these stresses also during the holidays bring up the fact that you need to get divorced.
Yeah.
Like you can't stand this person. When it's time for that, you can't save it anymore. How do you prepare yourself emotionally?
Well, one of the things to prepare emotionally would be to become very logical about the whole process.
Right.
To get a lot of information. And that's a time when I would refer them to go to an attorney, a family attorney, get as much information that, you know, what goes into that process, what are their the pros and cons and all of that, so that they can make a good decision.
And so it is as much emotional preparedness as legal preparedness. How do you prepare yourself legally for a divorce?
Well, you know, Gail mentioned that a lot in the context of breakups around the holiday periods, that the end of the year is a very good time to financially know exactly where you are, because if you're going to get a bonus, you're going to know exactly more or less how much you made over the last year. And it helps you to project what do you intend to make the following year. If you're a person who's going to get divorced, you've got a conflict of financial interest, so you definitely want to try to figure out and pin down what exactly is the amount that the opposing party is going to make and contribute toward potential future spousal support, potential future child support.
So I think the process that I'm getting from both of you is you're conflicted. You don't know whether to get a divorce or not. You go to counseling and see whether you can be prepared for a divorce, or maybe it can be fixed, and then you talk to a lawyer to see what your legal options are. When you go to counseling, and you mentioned you also refer some of your clients to counseling, when would that be? Do you refer everyone to counseling, or do you pretty much know which ones are really decided and which ones needs counseling?
Any client who comes in who seems to be on the fence is definitely somebody who's appropriate for taking a closer examination, a longer-term look at their relationship through counseling and private therapy.
How open are husbands to going through counseling? A lot of women are okay with that, but men don't. And can it work if just the wife goes to counseling and the husband doesn't?
Yes, yes. A lot of people are surprised to find out that you can actually do conjoint, not conjoint, but couples counseling when one person is only coming into the therapy room. Because the whole point of it is that if you're able to change your behaviors towards the other spouse, it hopefully changes the other spouse's behavior as well. So when you're looking at the two systems, so if you change the system, then you're able to affect changes in the other system.
What to do when divorces become contentious? And when it's just fighting for assets, fighting for kids, fighting all the time.
That's a great question. I often tell my clients that, you know, you can either go through a bad divorce or a good divorce. There is a way to control it. Take your own divorce by the reins and figure out if you show a certain amount of respect for the other party, you might be able to get into it through a lot better. But something that, you know, you mentioned a while back about one of the other values that really needs to be inherent if you're going to reconcile is trust. I find many of my couples will get back together, and those, I don't think it ever happens without the element of trust. I think it's impossible to go through a long-term relationship if you just don't trust the other partner.
And speaking of trust, speaking of respect, I feel sad when I hear about divorces that drag on for years and years because nobody just wants to give up or nobody wants to settle. Does that mean that if they don't want to settle, that there's still something there for the other person? They still want to make hell for life health for the other person?
Yes, that's actually one of the issues that are addressed in counseling, because either the spouses they do have an emotional connection. The only question is whether that emotional connection is healthy or not, because some spouses will hold on to the other spouse even though it's an unhealthy connection, just because they need to have that connection still.
So it's the two people that can decide if they want a long, drawn-out divorce or a quick divorce, a good divorce or bad divorce. What factor does a lawyer play in that?
Well, hopefully it's a counseling one that is sage, giving strong advice. I often get clients who come to me and ask me, they'll tell me initially, I need an aggressive attorney. And I immediately tell them, no, nobody needs an aggressive attorney. You need a wise attorney.
Okay.
You need to choose your battles very, very carefully and determine when aggression is something which is actually warranted. It's mistakes to simply think that I'm being bothered by my opposing party who wants a divorce, and now we need to fight back. It's not always the best scenario at all.
I like that issue. Aggressive attorney. How do you pick an attorney that's wise, attorney that would know when to be aggressive and when to back off? That's what we'll talk about when we return on the show. Don't go away.